A very good morning to all of you. Welcome back to the channel. So let's start with today's analysis for 20th of July 2023. So firstly, we see that activist Tista Stilward, she's going to continue on bail according to Supreme Court. So special bench quashes the Gujarat High Court order that she surrendered immediately in a forgery case which is linked to 2002 riots in Gujarat. And the top court says that High Court order is riddled with contradictions. So that's why she'll basically continue on bail. So here a brief road to relief is being shown. So you can see that Gujarat police arrested her in Mumbai in a forgery case which is linked to 2002 riots. Then Supreme Court grants her interim bail. Now here you need to know about what are different types of bail available, and again, actually their implication. Then High Court, the Gujarat High Court refuses her regular bail and orders her immediate surrender. So Supreme Court protects her from arrest the same night, and Supreme Court orders her interim protection to continue till further orders. And then we saw that Supreme Court quashes and sets aside the Gujarat High Court decision, and she is going to continue on bail. Then we'll be looking into that the bill on minimum income. So Rajasthan is going to bring up this bill. Now you need to talk about or be clear with your ideas about the universal basic income. Then here we see 15 electrocuted at the Namami Gange site in Uttarakhand. So specifically during monsoon, we see such incidents. They are going up not just around this site, but even at other places. So what measures or safety measures are important in order to ensure that these such incidences they are not occurring? So 15 people were electrocuted and 7 injured on Wednesday at a sewage treatment plant of the Namami Gange project on the banks of Alaknanda in Chamoli district of Uttarakhand. Then Manipur clips surfaces of women facing sexual violence. So you can still see that despite the intervention by the state and the center and then the security forces, the central armed forces, we see the situation, it is not, we can say the peace has been restored in the state, and we still see incidences of violence increasing in the state. So where are we actually faltering? That needs to be identified, and what more steps are required in order to restore peace in the state. Then here talking about aspiration to inspiration. So this is basically the aspirational districts program. So what steps have been taken, and then what are the results from different districts as well. So here you can see it has been a game changer for the state of Uttar Pradesh, and UP government is committed to raising the living standards of its people, ensuring inclusive growth for all through this program. So Prime Minister said that we have made efforts to improve people's life more than 100 in more than 100 aspirational districts, which were the pockets of underdevelopment. So these districts, they have now emerged as the catalyst of growth in the country. And then districts, they were identified based upon the composite indicators from the following, which have an impact on human development index also. So here, talking about health and nutrition, education, agriculture and water resources, financial inclusion, skill development, and the basic infrastructure availability. So you can see that the program includes convergence, collaboration, and competition. So in convergence between central and state schemes, collaboration between central and state level Prabhari and district collectors, and competition among the districts for better performance. So Champions of Change, it is the dashboard which was developed by Niti Aayog to monitor the district progress and aid in the decision making. So this was another step. You can basically go through all the details of these things. How does this program works? Then building one district at a time. So for transforming the district, so the program it focuses on convergence of the central and the state schemes, collaboration, and then development partner citizens. They also need to collaborate. And you can see then deans of different districts, what do they have to say about the results and what steps were taken. So again, you can go through it and find out something unique, or how did they actually make things work out and give good results. So as we were talking the front page, the bill on minimum income being brought up by Rajasthan. So this is the closest a Congress government has come since its 2019 promise to implement Nyay, and this is basically a minimum income guarantee program. So the chief minister of the state says that it is the right of the people to be able to live their life with dignity. So it is not just right, it is the fundamental right of people. So safety net, look at this Rajasthan's minimum guaranteed income bill. So what are the features of this bill? So it says that additional 25 days of work for the rural households at complete 100 days of work under MG Narega, that would be offered. Then a total of 125 days of guaranteed work for registered urban households. And if the government fails to provide employment within 15 days when the demand was made, so applicant will be entitled to receive unemployment allowance. And and every person falling in the category of old age, specially abled, widows, single women with prescribed eligibility is again entitled to a pension under this act. And the pension shall be increased at the rate of 15% annum. So you can like think about this in a much broader context. As I said, that you need to be clear with your own ideas and thoughts about basically what are going to be the challenges, what can be the potential benefits of implementing this program. Coming to the editorial page, so here we see a job and career right. The disabled cannot be denied. So talking about persons with disabilities, so they have a job and career right, and obviously they can't be discriminated against. We have this Act of Persons with Disabilities, Equal Opportunities, Protection of Rights and Full Participation Act of 1995. And herein we saw that for the first time, the rights of the disabled persons to be employed and promoted in the government jobs on equal basis with others were recognized. And then it also talks about 3% reservation for them in employment. And now the act, it extended the reservation for the disabled in group A and B as well. And in addition to this, it also fixed the percentage of reservation of seats at 3%. So these are some of the provisions of this act. So an integral part of reservation is that reservation for the disabled in the promotion. In all the groups, it was first interpreted as an integral part of reservation by the Department of Personnel and Training, which was passed in 1998. So you're talking about promotion or reservation in promotion. So this government order, it was issued by the Department 1998, and it happened after the Parliament it enacted provision of reservation of promotion for the SC and STs. So this was basically after the reversing the Supreme Court's verdict in the Indira Sahni case of 1992, where the reservation in the promotion for the SCs and ST that was withdrawn by the Supreme Court under this judgment of Indira Sahani. So herein, after that, the Parliament enacted the provision of reservation and promotion for SCs and STs, and then later on, the Department of Personnel and Training order, it withdrew this notification for reservation of disabled people in promotion in Group A and B. So the department's reversal of its own order, it was not only shocking, but also clearly reflected the apathetic and hostile attitudes of administration and the government towards the needs and aspirations of the disabled people. So on similar lines, you can see the article is talking about the same thing. So you need to again think about this issue, the rights, the challenges, and the inclusivity of PWD people in the society. Here talking about the Indus Water Treaty. So firstly, you need to get clear all the basic facts about it. Then more than court action, we need to revisit this treaty. So it was signed in 1960 and it regulates the underwater courses. Again, all the rivers you need to know about their origin and from which all states do they flow in India, where do they actually drain. So there, all of that is very important. So future supply of water. Here we see in an atmosphere of a lack of trust between India and Pakistan. So judicial recourse appears to be the only rational strategy by this the parties to this treaty. So, but it is not likely to address the rapidly growing industrial needs of the two countries apart from food and energy needs. So this treaty provides only some elements of predictability and certainty with regard to the future supplies of water to the riparian states, but it needs to incorporate mechanisms that allow flexibility to changes in the quantity of water available for allocation among the parties. So this element needs to be brought in, the flexibility to the changes as per the needs of the parties to this treaty. Then also, this bilateral water agreements, they are vulnerable to the climate change as most of them, they include fixed allocation of amounts of water use that are concluded under the assumption that future water availability that is also going to remain the same as today's. So herein the element of flexibility becomes important. Obviously चीजें उसी तरीके से सेम नहीं रहेंगी, needs change होंगी, किसी एरिया की ज्यादा होंगी, किसी एरिया की कम होगी, kahin pe we can see as we are working upon efficient utilization of water. So accordingly, the need would vary. So similarly, जो water allocation किया जाता है, that also needs to be flexible in nature. So under this treaty, it requires Pakistan that it is under the obligation to let the flow and shall not permit any interference with the waters of the eastern rivers. And India similarly is also obligated to let the flow to let flow all the waters of the western rivers and shall not permit any interference with these waters except for certain uses, which includes generation of hydroelectric power on the rivers and tributaries of the western rivers before they finally flow into Pakistan. So some things they are basically allowed. These are some of the exceptions. So incorporating the two cardinal principles, that is equitable and reasonable utilization and the no harm rule in the treaty, it will help reduce tensions between India and Pakistan. So these are some of the reforms which can be brought up to make this treaty much more effective and relevant. So here we have a proper article upon why the tomato prices, they're still high. So although it's not that important, to go into so much detail, but again, we'll just take up and try to understand the nitty-gritties of it. So what is the size of India's tomato cultivation? What has fueled the current tomato inflation? Why is it being described as seasonal issue? And how does the spike in the tomato prices after it affects the CPI? And what are the ways to control inflation volatility of tomatoes? Well, how can we basically address and tackle the current situation when we have very high tomato prices? So we know that the prices are ranging between rupees 100 to rupees 200 per kg. And even RBI's bulletin, it has also highlighted the volatility of tomato prices and it has historically contributed to overall inflation levels in the country. So food inflation is something which is very volatile, and again, that is a cause of concern even for RBI. So how is the tomato produced in India? So tomato production in the country is concerned regionally in states of Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Odisha, Gujarat. So all of them account for 50% of the total production of tomato. And there are two major crops of tomato annually, Kharif and Rabi both. So here we see that some regions in Maharashtra and Himachal Pradesh, Solan, they are able to grow tomatoes during the monsoon months as well. So that is basically there. And when we talk about the entire tomato production, so it peaked in 2019-20 at 21.1 million tons, and it has been declining after that. So that is one of the reasons the supply crunch of tomatoes is responsible for the hike in prices. So what is actually fueling the price rise right now? So there are multiple factors for the dip in overall tomato production this year, which includes the two key reasons being the extreme weather conditions and secondly, the low commercial realization of the crop for the farmers in the months before June as well as the last year. So these are two main reasons. So heat waves, high temperatures, along with delayed monsoon showers in southern India and Maharashtra led to pest attacks in the tomato crops. So already we were having less supply, and then whatever current cultivation we had, even that was destroyed because of the pest attacks. So this further added up to the pressure. So as a result, we saw inferior quality of varieties coming to the markets. So these are the reasons. And is it seasonal issue or not? So Center it has called that this is sudden and sharp price rise in tomatoes is seasonal, and this is going to be a temporary issue. So there is a seasonality to tomatoes, adding that the data on tomato prices the last 5 years showed that the rates had risen every year at this time. So ये हमने हर साल देखा है कि इस टाइम के आसपास हमेशा tomato prices increase होते हैं. So policy experts over the years and now RBI, and when we talk about the role of NABARD, they have expressed concerns over this high seasonal price volatility of tomatoes and its impact on the overall CPI. So basically, अगर आपको पता है कि last 5 years से as per the data we see कि during this time period tomato prices increase होते, तो क्या स्टेप्स आप पहले ले सकते थे इन ऑर्डर टू इंश्योर कि आने वाले टाइम में हमें ऐसे इंसिडेंसेस देखने को ना मिले, बिकॉज द डेटा सेज इट वेरी क्लियरली कि इट इज सीजनल इन नेचर. तो अगेन यू कैन जस्ट लीव इट to itself क्योंकि this is temporary in nature, you can take some steps. So NABARD study for the last month notes कि जो tomato head is most volatile out of all the three top agriculture commodities जो हम बात करते हैं. And इसके अलावा हाउ कैन वॉलेटिलिटी भी, इसको हम कैसे कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं. सो पॉलिसी एक्सपर्ट्स का कहना ये है कि जो हाई वॉलेटिलिटी है इट कैन बी टेम्ड बाय मेकिंग सम इम्प्रूवमेंट्स. पहला तो सिंस टोमेटो इट इज हाईली पेरिशेबल, सो इम्प्रूव्ड वैल्यू एंड द सप्लाई चेन्स they can help in solving this problem. Then organized value chain, it involves market focused collaboration of a set of entities working in tandem to produce, process and market these products. And then according to a study, increasing the processing capacity for the tomatoes would also be helpful. Building more processing units and linking the tomato value chains to processing of at least 10% of the tomato production into tomato paste and puree during the peak seasons and using them in the lean season when the fresh tomato prices they spike, it can be also a solution. But here again, we need to have that availability of basic infrastructure in order to process the tomatoes. And again, then आपको consumer acceptability भी देखना पड़ेगा कि are the consumers basically finding it to be a solution for them or not? Are they ready to buy tomato paste or tomato puree or not? So that is also something that needs to be looked into. So key takeaways from the NATO summit. So how did Ukraine's presence influence this recent summit, and why did Turkey lift its opposition against Sweden? So recently the latest country to join NATO is Finland. आपको पता होना चाहिए कौन सी countries part हैं या फिर कौन सी जो important बड़ी countries part नहीं है NATO का. And उसके अलावा हेयर वे टॉकिंग अबाउट यूक्रेन के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में, तो सिमिलर आर्टिकल हम पहले ले चुके हैं, ऑलरेडी डिस्कस कर चुके हैं कि नेटो का मानना ये है कि हम यूक्रेन को भी एज अ मेंबर एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेंगे, बट एट द सेम टाइम हम यूक्रेन को सपोर्ट जरूर करेंगे। सो दोनों चीजें एक तरह से बोली जा रही हैं। एंड यूएसए का क्या स्टांस था, तो यूएसए प्रेसिडेंट का कहना ये है कि they'll be providing unwavering support to the alliance as well as Ukraine. So this is seen as an important assurance. So the former president Donald Trump की हम बात करें तो his approach was drastically different from Mr. Biden's approach. So that's what was the outcome. And what are the other threat actors to NATO? So at this summit, it mentioned no words on the challenges या क्या threats हैं emerge हो रही हैं from China's stated ambitions and coercive policies. So इस पे कोई बात नहीं की गई. It stated कि जो NATO faces the threats from China's malicious hybrid cyber operations as well as confrontational rhetoric and disinformation, it will specifically aim at NATO alliances. कहीं ना कहीं indirectly या directly target would be the NATO alliance. Then NATO summit में it was also seen कि it emphasized that developments in the Indo-Pacific have become increasingly consequential for Euro-Atlantic security, with expanding space for the Quad countries along with other regional countries like New Zealand and South Korea. So you can see कि Indo-Pacific region is something जो हर कोई जिसके बारे में बात करता है, जो हर किसी कंट्री के लिए, हर बॉडी के लिए, हर अलायंस या ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के लिए आज के टाइम में सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट रीजन है, क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं if the stability is compromised, if the situation of law and order, whatever we are seeing stability and peace conditions right now, अगर वो compromise की जाती है कहीं ना कहीं, we see that situation going and getting worse in the Taiwan Strait, तो हर एक country पे उसका कहीं ना कहीं impact जरूर होगा. So that is why it is, basically something, an important region of significance for each and every country, I can say. So a genre in itself, civil service memoirs, they are important records of public administration. So आप यहाँ से different case studies ले सकते हो जो आपको help कर सकता है in your means answer writing. So Supreme Court agrees to list the pleas to criminalize marital rape before a 3-judge bench. So ये issue अपने आप में बहुत important है. So exceptions to basically section 375 of the IPC decriminalizes the marital rape. So petitions are largely triggered by the decisions from Karnataka and Delhi High Courts requiring an authoritative pronouncement from the Supreme Court over this debate. So petitions, they had argued that the exception which is undermined women's consent to sex and violated the bodily integrity, autonomy and dignity. So again आपका स्टांस क्लियर होना चाहिए whether you will support this or not. So ये पूरा जो इशू होगा, पूरा जो भी deliberations and discussions होंगी, arguments होंगी, reasons दिए जाएंगे. So that would be important for us in having much more clarity about it. So here we see, so exception to section 375 of the IPC decriminalizes marital rape and holds that sexual intercourse by a man with his own wife who is not under 18 years of age without her consent, that is not a rape. So यहाँ पे बहुत बड़ा, I would say there's a question mark about what the rights of a female, अगर she is a wife, so क्या इतनी liberty है to her husband that without her consent he can basically go for sexual intercourse and that would not be called a rape. So that's a very big thing. So here we see a man is a man, an act is an act, rape is a rape, be it performed by a man, husband on the woman or the wife. So this was one of the judgment or observations of Karnataka High Court, and that is true and relevant as well. So India supports UN on the Black Sea Initiative. So India voiced the support for the UN's efforts in continuing the Black Sea Grain Initiative and expressed hope for an early resolution to this impasse. So recently हमने देखा कि Russia it has withdrawn from this initiative या जो भी sign किया गया था agreement. So इसकी वजह से again जो globally food inflation rise up हो सकती है उसके अपने concerns हैं. So again जो global supply है we need to ensure कि that is not disturbed and get fluctuated. So according to data, 40% of the districts they do not have nursing colleges according to Health Ministry. So center directs the states to correct the regional disparity with a new scheme to open the nursing colleges. 42% of the existing institutions are in 5 southern states and like they're concentrated in these 5 states only and 17% in the 3 western states. India has 35 lakh nurses but only 2 lakh nurses for every 1000 people. So इसको और increase करने की जरूरत है and basically जो regional disparity है we need to address that. So according to WHO, approximately 27 million men and women they make up the global nursing and midwifery workforce, accounting for nearly 50% of the global health workforce. So there's a global shortage of health workers, in particular nurses या midwives की हम बात करें, who represent more than 50% of the current shortage in health workers. So largest shortages of nurses and midwives are in Southeast Asia and Africa. So passport index की बात करें, India it has climbed 7 points to rank 80 and Singapore is at the top position. So we can see India's ranking of the years according to this Henley passport index. So our rank improved from 87 to 80 in 1 year. So again, basic जो factual चीजें हैं, you need to know about that. क्या indicators हैं on the basis of which we are assessing the position of different countries. So rankings of all the world's passports, they are done according to the number of destinations their holders can access without a proper visa. So earlier, Japan was at the top position on this index for 5 years and it was dropped to third place. So it was replaced by Singapore, which is now officially the most powerful passport in the world, with its citizens able to visit 192 travel destinations out of 227 around the world visa free. So Germany, Italy, Spain, they occupy the second place and Japan has fallen to third place. So Putin will not travel to South Africa for this latest BRICS summit. So BRICS अपने आप में बहुत important है, जो latest development है BRICS currency के बारे में बात की जाती है and of late we are seeing कि क्या और countries they should also join BRICS or not, then accordingly obviously BRICS का नाम भी BRICS नहीं रहेगा if more countries join because it is on the basis of the initials of the countries who are a member of BRICS right now. So ये सब सारी चीजें हैं, discussions हो रहे हैं इसके ऊपर and let's see what will be the decision and outcome of this summit in South Africa. Coming to the main newspaper, तो यहाँ हम देख रहे हैं what India's top exporting states they have done right. क्या decisions रहे जिनका outcome अच्छा रहा. So successful states में export preparedness evaluated across 4 pillars. कि मतलब आप export sector में अगर आगे जाके कोई challenge आते हैं, कोई fluctuations आती हैं, तो उसके लिए states कितना ज़्यादा prepared है, तो उसके लिए basically 4 indicators या 4 pillars का use किया गया to assess that. सो वन इज कि आपके पास क्या पॉलिसी है, सेकंड बिजनेस एनवायरनमेंट कैसा है स्टेट में, थर्ड इज द एक्सपोर्ट इकोसिस्टम, एंड देन फोर्थ इज एक्सपोर्ट परफॉर्मेंस. सो गुजरात इज ऑन द टॉप, देन रैंक ऑन नीति आयोग एक्सपोर्ट प्रिपेयर्डनेस इंडेक्स. तो टॉप में इंडेक्स के अगर हम रैंकिंग की बात करें तो तमिलनाडु है, फॉलोड बाय महाराष्ट्र, देन वी हैव कर्नाटका, फॉलोड बाय गुजरात. सो हेयर दिस इज बेसिकली द नंबर्स विच आर शोइंग कि एक स्टेट में से कितना बेसिकली स्टेट एक्सपोर्ट्स करता है, तो उसमें गुजरात इज ऑन द टॉप, अकॉर्डिंगली यू कैन सी. So only 7 states, they account for 75% of India's exports, and they have dominated the Niti Aayog's export preparedness index for the last 3 years. So क्या ऐसी policies हैं जो state level पे help कर रही हैं? So which is the most competitive state अगर हम बात करें तो that is Tamil Nadu, and उसके अलावा we see it shows a strong export related policy ecosystem, business environment काफी healthy अच्छा है, infrastructure and export performance got it to the top. So what is common to the top performing states? So coastal states, they have also done well in the ranking, grabbing the top 4 places. So in fact, they have taken 5 of the top 10 ranks. And top performers जो हैं, they have put in place export promotion policies. And then आपको ये भी समझना पड़ेगा कि इन policies के features क्या हैं. And not just at the state level, but even at district level पे भी they are working so closely and monitoring की policy कैसे perform कर रही है. So not just कि state level पे आपने policy बना दी, but they are going to the micro level. So their global footprint that is wide with a larger export basket, and they have also taken measures to promote the products जो unique है to their states. So for instance, if we take the example of Tamil Nadu or Karnataka, so they export the highest number of geographical indication products. So GI tag जिन products को मिला है, so again वहाँ पे थोड़ी आपको competitive edge मिल जाती है. So top exporting states कौन सी हम already देख चुके हैं. Now, India की overall performance की अगर हम बात करें, how we are doing in exports. So despite the pandemic and the supply side challenges, India's goods exports, they have remained robust. They touched an all-time high of $447 billion after registering a sharp growth in financial year 2022 also. So government refrained from announcing the exact target for the current financial year because we are seeing कि global uncertainty है, so उसकी वजह से we can see more fluctuations. So instead going for exact target, आप range के ऊपर work करोगे. So services exports definitely India के लिए is one of the major advantages. So that takes the India's total overall exports to $770 billion. Having a look at the quote of the day, which is from Ajay Banga, who is the World Bank president. So he says that I think India's opportunity currently is to cash in on the China plus one opportunity. This opportunity won't stay open for 10 years. So basically, चाइना प्लस वन अपॉर्चुनिटी की हम पहले भी बात कर चुके हैं कि जो कंपनीज हैं या जो मैन्युफैक्चरर्स हैं which are based in China, उनकी manufacturing facilities, production facilities China में हैं. So they are basically trying to diversify their risk and they are looking for कि China के अलावा और कौन सी ऐसी countries या markets हैं जो उनको benefit कर सकती है. So completely depending upon China उनके लिए थोड़ा risky हो सकता है आने वाले time में. तो this is what is called the China plus one strategy आप बोल सकते हो. So वो ये बात नहीं करे कि चाइना में जो उनकी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग या जो भी ऑपरेशन फैसिलिटीज हैं वो उनको क्लोज कर देंगे. वो फंक्शन होता रहेगा, बट अगेन वो अपने जो पार्टनर्स हैं उनको डाइवर्सिफाई करने की बात कर रहे हैं. कमिंग टू फाइनेंशियल एक्सप्रेस, सो यहाँ देखते हैं व्हाट आर द न्यू थिंग्स फॉर अस टू take up. So we see fall in the fleet to keep the Russian oil in demand. So transportation cost कहीं ना कहीं कम हो रहा है, तो again जो Russian oil है उसकी demand would be going up. And ये तो हम देख चुके हैं कि 40% जो क्रूड ऑयल है दैट इज coming from Russia. So narrowing discounts and then concerns over rupee payments notwithstanding, Russia will likely retain its newly acquired tag of India's top oil supplier because of sharp fall in the freight charges. So transportation cost come ho जाएंगी, and again that would be raising the demand for Russian oil. So बाकी challenges जब हम de-dollarization की बात करते हैं, rupee payments, internationalization of rupee, तो वहाँ पे कुछ concerns हैं when we talk about the trade of the crude oil trade, and जो discounts है वो भी थोड़े कम होते जा रहे हैं, जो earlier was a major attraction of increasing dependence upon the Russian crude oil. But again कुछ benefits भी हैं, तो उसकी वजह से we can expect the demand going up. So यहाँ पे स्किलिंग द यूथ, इसके बारे में पूरी बात की गई है. अभी हमने बात करी थी एस्पिरेशनल डिस्ट्रिक्ट प्रोग्राम की. सो हियर इट इज ऑल अबाउट द स्किलिंग द यूथ. सो डेफिनेटली दिस इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग. जब हम बात करते हैं डेमोग्राफिक डिविडेंड की, तो यहाँ पे आप यू कैन जस्ट स्कैन थ्रू दिस पेज. इट्स गोइंग टू बी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सो फ्रॉम लोकल टू ग्लोबल की बात की गई है. रिवाइटलाइजिंग जो ट्रेडिशनल इंडस्ट्रीज हैं, अगेन यहाँ पे भी वन डिस्ट्रिक्ट वन प्रोडक्ट दैट बिकम्स इम्पोर्टेंट. So tomato prices की बात करें तो गवर्नमेंट अभी it is making available tomatoes at subsidized rates of 70 rupees a kg. So ये आप पैन इंडिया लेवल पे बहुत बड़ी स्केल पे नहीं कर सकते हो. कुछ मेट्रो सिटीज हैं, कुछ एरियाज हैं जहाँ पे गवर्नमेंट कैन कैरी आउट दिस एक्सरसाइज. और इसके अलावा हम थोड़ा आज प्रोडक्शन के बारे में बात कर चुके हैं. इंडिया में टोटल प्रोडक्शन क्या रहा, क्या मतलब टॉप प्रोड्यूसिंग स्टेट्स हैं. देन थोड़ा सा आप क्लाइमेटिक कंडीशंस के बारे में पढ़ सकते हो कि सूटेबल क्लाइमेटिक कंडीशंस क्या है फॉर कल्टिवेशन ऑफ टोमेटो. So OECD wants data sharing on the foreign real estate deals. So the move, it follows request from G20 India presidency. So talking about tax transparency, so OECD submitted an updated report that examines the current state of tax transparency concerning the foreign owned real estates. And at present, the OECD's current framework, AEOI framework, provides for sharing of financial account details among the signatory countries to check tax evasion. So according to Ajay Banga, he says that local demand is India's cushion against global slowdown. So जो domestic demand है India में, that remains strong, and उसकी वजह से we can also talk about the momentum, continuing forward. So domestic consumption provides natural cushion to the Indian economy against the global slowdown, as bulk of the country's GDP depends on local demand. And talking to reporters after meeting the finance minister, she said that he discussed issues related to G20 and cooperation between the World Bank and India. So World Bank a role in terms of India's development, you can search about that as well. So on the world economy outlook, he said that there is more risk on downside in terms of slowdown in early part of the next year as well. So things are going to be a little uncertain in coming times as well. So coming to page number 10, we see that may need restructuring of debt if the goals are not met. Talking about Pakistan, so which is facing exceptionally high economic risk, according to IMF. So exceptionally high, why is that the thing? So says that economic challenges, they are complex and multifaceted in Pakistan. So restructuring of debt may be required in future. So Pakistan के passport की भी ranking की बात करें तो it has been ranked 4th worst passport in the world. So Pakistan needs another IMF program and support from other multilateral lenders beyond the coming election cycle and ongoing standby arrangement. And then the report is based on the Memorandum of Economic and Fiscal Policies, which was signed by finance ministers, resolving Pakistan's structural challenges, including long-term BOP pressures, will require continued adjustment and creditor support beyond the current program period. Coming to Indian Express, so let's see. So this is one of the case studies, bypassing Ayushman Bharat, doctor at top government hospital, duped the patients and made killing on implants. So neurosurgeon at Safdarjung Hospital in custody after he and his associates overcharged the patients for 2 years. Basically, they misused this Ayushman Bharat scheme, so they lied, and Ayushman Bharat clearance would take 2 to 3 months. Basically, that's how they, in order to make money, like to what extent you can go. Then another case study, pilot and husband arrested in Delhi for assault and torture of 10-year-old help. सबसे पहले तो she's 10-year-old and then you're assaulting. So you need to basically had basically जो main चीज आ जाती है, that is the rights, the dignified life of this community, of the people coming from um, the community of like offering their services as domestic helps. So the girl, she's from a village in Bihar, had bruises on her face, swollen eyes, and burn injuries on her arms when she was rescued. So basically, your everyday lives, stress, and all these things, they ultimately results in such things. So here you can also talk about the mental health of the people. तो oppositions के बारे में हम बात करें तो yesterday also I said this thing, you need to know about कि what is the importance of opposition in a democracy, what is the role that they can play in constructive democracy. So that is something which is more relevant for the examination instead of going into the political things of this issue. So it is talking about coalition, so war and wheat. For India, the threats to the food inflation are likely to be more from the domestic than the global factors. So हम already tomato prices के बारे में बात कर चुके हैं, जो seasonal factors हैं. Then यहाँ पे Black Sea agreement की बात की जा रही है, तो इंडिया पे इतना ज़्यादा impact नहीं होगा. But again, domestically we need to ensure कि things they go smoothly and food inflation इतना ज़्यादा rise ना हो पाए. So a cyberspace which is more secure. So data protection bill is alive to the concerns of privacy and over regulation. So these are some of the concerns. जहाँ तक कि हम data privacy bill की बात करें. So the author is Rakesh Asana and he's retired IPS officer. So let's look into this. So he says that effective implementation of any law depends on the efficient discharge of duties by and the coordination amongst all the stakeholders, including individuals, organizations, all of that. So it's also imperative to strike a balance between confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data and information. So the data protection bill aims to do that. So this is a very important sentence: balance between confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data. So यहाँ थोड़ी साइबर अटैक्स की बात की गई है, like cyberbullying, cyber stalking, sextortion. They affect the psyche of young people, especially the teenagers. So accordingly, psychiatrists, they have reasoned this thing at times. And people can also take extreme steps after such incidences. So this bill is going to be a landmark piece of legislation that aims to regulate how companies and organizations they use the data of individuals inside the country. So it aims to protect digital privacy of individuals, especially on matters related to personal data, specify the flow and use of such information, and create relationship of trust between persons and entities that process the data. So this bill, it categorized data into three categories: critical data, sensitive data, and the general data. So sensitive data includes the financial, health, sexual orientation, biometrics, transgender status, all of that is part of sensitive data. And critical data, it will be defined by the government from time to time. So there will be no restriction on storing and processing the general data. So according to the category of data, the restrictions would be varying. So India and Sri Lanka, five things which can be done to further strengthen the relationship and cooperation. So relationship is a winning proposition for the region and it offers potential security through trade across Indo-Pacific. So let's look into these five things which can be done. So first is India can consolidate its fragmented aid program. Right now, we know about the current economic and political situation, instability in Sri Lanka. So, जो India का basically how India is supporting Sri Lanka, that needs to be that entire program can be made a little more consolidated, more simple. So currently, जो aid है that is routed by multiple ministries and agencies. So single development bank, it will work better. So good models, they do exist, like the Japan Bank for the International Cooperation, the China's Development Bank, which finance large-scale development projects internationally. So Asian Development Bank, which is closely managed by Japan, can be a model of an MDB for South Asia. The second thing is, as India becomes a destination for manufacturing and services, it can foster the supply chains in South Asia. So significant private Indian companies are investing in Sri Lanka. Like we have Adani Group, it invested $1 billion in renewable energy in the Mannar Basin. So that is the second area where more development is possible. Third is digitalization. So the special focus of India's G20 presidency is digital public infrastructure. So India's open source fintech is among the best in the world and is being adapted to achieve the UN SDG. So India's UPI that is being rapidly adopted worldwide, but it has not been exposed to its own South Asian neighborhood. So most urgent on the Vikram Singh's agenda should be the adaptation of India's digital public infrastructure for Sri Lanka. Fourth is a deeper engagement between the central bank governors of both the countries. So frequent meetings can be organized. The Asian financial crisis of 1997, it ensured that ASEAN adopted a mutual monitoring mechanism for early warning and methods to assist each other during a crisis. So here on similar lines, India and Sri Lanka can also work together on a similar system. And finally, we can work on security. So it is no secret that India's most significant concern with Sri Lanka is the presence of China. So cumulative Chinese investments add accounts for 18% of Sri Lanka's 2021 GDP. And 10% of the country's foreign debt. So this allows China special access to Sri Lanka and its waters. So there also, India Sri Lanka needs to work more transparently. So Sri Lanka need to understand India's security concerns. So India has stepped up to help its neighbor in difficult economic straits, and a credit line is showing the path to private and public investment, and this can lead to increased trade and the building of robust South Asian supply chain as well. So on the explained page, we have Rajasthan's minimum income bill, discussion on that, what the provisions, what makes it unique. So the major provisions is minimum guaranteed income would be a part, guaranteed employment and guaranteed social security pension. So we have already taken up this thing, and why this bill is needed. So the true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members. This is what Mahatma Gandhi said, and that was a focal point of all the government policies of the current incumbent government of Rajasthan. So maker of poem, reader of Gita. So dramatic life and conflicted mind of the American physicist J. Robert and the so-called father of atomic bomb are ideal ingredients for an epic thriller of the kind Christopher Nolan is known for. So ahead of the opening of the year's biggest film, a short bio of an extraordinary scientist. So you can just go through it once for your basic knowledge. So mammals may have hunted dinosaurs for food, and rare fossil in China suggest this thing. So we see back-to-back strikes by Russia on the grain infrastructure in Odessa. So this can further disrupt the global supply. So 60,000 tons of grain have been destroyed and at least 10 people have been injured. So India supports the UN efforts on the Black Sea grain export and hopes for early resolution because Russia has kind of withdrawn from this agreement. Europe battles the heat wave and fires. Mercury hits new high in China as well. So people, they're finding it difficult to adapt to such climatic conditions and heat wave like situation. So from the perspective of health, what measures they are needed to ensure that your health is not, complicated, or it does not get complicated or compromised under such situation. So G20 expert group on the multilateral development bank suggest greater engagement with the private sector. So calling for better coordination between MDBs. Report said that some MDBs, they have been leaner and faster. AIIB is them, and others are experimenting with raising new forms of capital like AFDB and IDB, engaging with the private sector and better utilizing the balance sheets in other ways. And apart from this, we're also talking about the debt management of the different countries globally. That is also something which is more important. We have talked about Ajay Banga's viewpoint about the Indian economy, the potential, and what he expects, how he expects the Indian economy to perform in coming time. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining us. And then lastly, you can also find out about PM Swanidhi scheme. So do subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and also hit the like button for the video.